Welcome everyone to the De-Escalation Lab episode 4. So happy that you are here with us today. I hope you are all doing exceptionally well. I know it's still pretty difficult out there. Just kind of a PSA. I know that we're kind of getting to a good curve. We're getting those vaccines out, but stay at home if you can. Wear those masks. A lot of folks watching these videos are first responders, healthcare professionals, so I am preaching. But if you're not, just know that not only can you get sick, you could spread the virus further, but you could also impact not only your family and friends, but all the amazing healthcare workers that are out there. So just be really mindful of that, okay? We're going to get through this together. We just need to make sure we're really smart about how we're getting through it together. So for this episode, we're going to talk about a few different things that are really, really important. So something that kind of stood out to me this week in particular was building rapport and trust, right? It seems so easy. It seems like it's something that's so easy to do. We do it all the time, but it's always good to have a refresher. And if not, it's always good to learn these skills. We have all these great tools, interventions, techniques, all these wonderful things out there. At the end of the day, if we can't stop, build rapport, build trust with someone, and really be competent that we understand those foundations, we're going to be at a complete loss. So sit back, relax. We're going to talk about building trust and building that rapport and why it's so important, especially when working in crisis or mental health situations. So motivational interviewing, this is a big buzzword. It's going around. It's been around for a while, but we're going to talk about OARS today. Okay, that's open-ended questions, affirmations, reflective listening, and then summarizing. So we're going to go through each one of these, talk about little stories, and see how it could be adequate to your daily work, doing the amazing work that you are doing. So open-ended questions, simply asking questions that invite a person to think. So when you think about this logically, it's a way for you to make sure they're not just saying yes or no to whatever you're asking. So a good situation might be very simple as this versus this. Ready? So do you want to kill yourself today? Well, that's kind of a yes or no answer versus you're saying that you're suicidal. Can you tell me more about that? Can you tell me more about those feelings? What have you been thinking about? So open-ended questions, that's what you're doing. You're making the person stop, think, open up a little bit about what's going on. Affirmations, acknowledging and encouraging, right? This is a foundation of crisis work. We need to make sure that we are working really hard to acknowledge what the person's saying, validating it, and then encouraging to get them to that next place to make sure that they are doing well and staying well. Reflective listening, that really helps build understanding, really helps build buy-in. So if someone was interviewing you or talking to you and they were just like, uh-huh, 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 how does that make you feel? Uh-huh, uh-huh, and they're looking down, they're not making eye contact at you, they're not expressing or reflecting kind of what you have said to them, you might think like, oh, who is this guy? Is it a Mack truck? What the heck's going on here? They're not really listening. This helps build understanding. You're able to reflect back what you're hearing, and that person's going to say yay or nay. And that's very helpful when trying to build that rapport, that trust, and getting through questions that you have to ask. Summarizing, this pulls together what someone has told you. Okay, it's a nice reflection, affirmation, but you're also putting that all into one nice little ball of, so I see that you've said, or I'm hearing that you've said, and you just talk about at length. You don't need to go very, very long, but you want to make sure you hit the important points. On the next slide here, we're going to talk a little bit about different things that you can say. But this is just a general understanding of the importance of open-ended questions, affirmations, reflective listening, and summarizing. So I don't prescribe medications. I talk to people. I help de-escalate. I try to figure out plans. I get people help if they need it, get them connected to different mental health services. At the end of the day, communication is key. The more we can understand and develop our communication skills, our verbal, nonverbal, what are we saying to them? How are we saying it? And is it going to be something that's meaningful to them? People have probably had interviews before in their life. Sometimes when we work in the mental health field, we're talking to someone who has talked once, two, three, 1,000 times to providers. It's about how we move forward with the questions we're asking. Yes, we have to complete an assessment. Yes, we have to ask certain questions. And the clients know that too. Don't sit there thinking, oh, they have no idea what we're doing. They do. They're the experts of it. They probably know very well that we need to ask all of these important questions. So just be open and honest about that. I always start an interview by saying, hey, my name is Tim. It's so nice to meet you today. I'd like to spend a little bit of time with you, just get to know you a little bit, ask you a few questions, check in on your safety, and then let's work together to build some kind of meaningful plan for you. Does that sound okay? Typically people go, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll try it. Okay, let's do it. Everything I said is oriented to them, right? So we're patient oriented. We're asking permission to do things. We're showing love, compassion, and humanity. Please don't forget, you're a human talking to another human. Picture yourself or a family member directly across from you when you're talking to them. How would you want them to be talked to? We don't want to walk in there and be like, oh, so what's the problem today? What's your problem? Oh, you're back again? Oh, you can't get over this? Come on, that's not helpful. And it's not helpful. So really trying to build that rapport and trust is key. Sometimes you might walk in to a situation where the person doesn't want to be there. If it's an emergency department, if you respond to a scene of a crisis, if they're court mandated to come see you, they might sit there with their arms crossed. They might sit there like this. They might curse you off. They might be like, I'm stuck coming here. Doesn't mean I want to be here. Doesn't mean I have to answer any of your questions. You don't want to push back with their pushing that they're doing to you. So it's okay to step back and build that rapport, build that trust before jumping into those questions. Maybe just take a little time to get to know them, get to know who they are, what they believe in, what they're looking for. And then you put it in those questions. As you get more confident in interviewing, that can just flow in a nice conversation. And this is how OARS really helps with that. I could be talking to someone, getting to know them a little bit, and then boom, I slip in. With all the stress going on in your life, have you ever thought about wanting to kill yourself, or are you thinking of killing yourself today? You've had that in the past. Oh, wow. Has it ever come to actually attempting it, a plan, or has it just been simply thoughts that you've had? So you can flow it. Takes time. It takes skill set, but the more you do it, the better it can be. And we're going to be doing a lot of these down the road. We're going to have some actual interviews that you're going to see of people interviewing, fake clients. So you get the idea of what works and what really doesn't work. So a little bit more about examples of OARS. So open-ended questions helps build rapport and trust, as I talked about. Some ways you could ask some of these questions. When did you last feel this way? Can you tell me more about this? Describe that feeling behind that statement you just made. Can you tell me more about this is really impactful. I'm so mad. I'm so sick of my relationship. No one loves me. No one cares about me. I'm so hopeless. I just feel like I want to die. Wow, I can tell that's really a lot of stress right now. Sounds like you're going through a lot. Can you tell me more about this? Can you tell me more about those feelings? You see how I've validated what they've said, but then I've also asked the question so that they continue talking, right? And a lot of the times people are going to say, yeah, let me tell you a little bit more about that today. And that's huge. And so that's what you want to do with these. Describing the feelings behind those statements, right? That's huge. Imagine that. Wow, that's a lot of anger. Describe that for me. Well, I'm upset. I'm frustrated. Tell me more about that. Can you open up a little bit more about what that means to you? Impactful. Open-ended questions are very impactful. Then we have our affirmations. This again is helping to show empathy. I noticed that. I can imagine that. I noticed that when you talked about that situation with your mother, got real emotional there. I could imagine that would be really difficult for you to have to talk about your mom and that situation when you were growing up. How does that feel for you? Right? Show that empathy, show that you care. Super important for building rapport and building trust. Reflective listening. This gains a deeper understanding overall of what the person's saying. So you can say something like, it sounds like you seem, or I noticed. I noticed that you fill in the blank. It looks like this may be, and fill in the blank. You seem to be getting really upset. Tell me more. Or I do see that you're getting really upset here. Let's move the topic a little bit. What would you like to talk about? You're trying to reflect statements that they're saying to you. You're seeing that anger, you're seeing that frustration, that sadness. You seem really sad. That hit something pretty deep, huh? Can you tell me more about that? It just flows the more you do it. And it's a skill set. It takes time. It takes time to learn these, but once you do, it's so impactful to your daily life as a clinician, as a first responder. Last here is summarizing, moving the conversation. And ultimately, it shows that you've been listening. So some things you can say are, what I hear you saying is, I understand that you, whatever it may be. Let's go over what we talked about today. It can actually be a really nice way to kind of close the gap if you have someone that might be talking a lot, or the session's winding down, or you know you have to move to the next step. It could be a nice way to shrink it down, gift wrap it a little bit, and gives them the idea, okay, we need to move on from this. So what I'm hearing that you're saying is that you've really been struggling with your mom, and that happened when you were a child. And because of that struggle, and when you were a child, it's kind of moved into your adult life, and you've been having struggles with A, B, and C. What's nice about summarizing is it creates that buy-in, it creates that empathy, that trust and rapport, but it shows that you actually gave a damn, that you listened to what they were saying. You weren't just checking off a box, you weren't just answering protocol questions. You were there, real deal, answering them in real time and listening. And so what's awesome about summarizing too is they could say to you, you know what, no, that's not entirely correct. What I meant to say is whatever they were going to say. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean you're a horrible clinician. It's a great way for you to get more information that could be helpful for treatment planning, crisis intervention, and getting them support as you go along. So don't look at summarizing as a fail if someone goes, no, that's not it at all. It just means, okay, they heard me, but I don't know if they've heard everything. I'm going to make sure they know what I'm talking about. So it's just another way to have a meaningful conversation. And again, that's what we're doing. When we're talking with people, we're having a conversation. Remember, we talked about the crisis negotiation, 2 or more people working together to solve a solution. Whether you're doing an intake, crisis assessment, ongoing session with a therapist, whatever it may be, it's just a conversation. And these are tools you can use to help the conversation be impactful and meaningful to the person you're talking to. And that's the whole point. You know, I talk to a lot of people that are suicidal, that have guns to their head, they're about to overdose on pills, that have a knife to their throat. I am not sitting there with a bunch of pills, an injection to give them in a safe environment of an emergency department. I have to use my communication skills to overcome this obstacle. And so as you see what we're doing here, you're learning the different techniques of what to do. And we're starting out slow, right? We're starting about, well, how does crisis go with the escalation grid? Okay, we know a little bit about that. Let's talk about communication. How do we build that rapport? How do we build that trust? These are all meaningful things that you have to remember. But also at the end of the day, it's just a conversation. Be yourself. I think a lot of clinicians, especially new clinicians, want to be this clinical, I'm going to go in and answer all these clinical questions. I'm going to use all this diagnostic lingo. Great. You could quote the DSM-5 and talk about all the criteria. Doesn't mean it's not necessary, but you're talking to a human in crisis that needs help. So just be yourself. Be open, honest, compassionate, supportive. What I find really impactful when I teach communication, motivational interviewing, is if it's a professional group in the room, I say, hey, you know what? Some homework for you. When you get home, I want you to try to dig up your old paper that you wrote to get into whatever program. So master's program, nursing program, typically when you apply, you have to write up a whole thing about why you want to do this, what your goals are, and why you feel this program is the best one for you. But take a look at the question, why do you want to get into this field? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And go back and look at what you wrote. What I wrote, I want to break down stigma in mental health. I want to be an advocate and a change maker. I want to be able to burst through red tape for people so they get what they need and they get what they want in a timely manner, right? And that's why I chose social work, because that's what social workers do best. We break down those barriers that exist. Sometimes we have to, run through them, cut them with a knife, or use a chainsaw. And you ask any social worker out there, they're going to say, oh yeah, red tape is what we do best. So I've always looked at that, and I try to look at that statement that I wrote yearly, because it's really helped me become a better interviewer, investigator, and better at communication and talking. Also, what's helpful is the more you talk, the better. Every chance you get to talk to someone is a chance for you to improve your communication. So I know in a lot of graduate programs and nursing programs and doctorate programs, there's chance in there to learn, to do simulations, and that's phenomenal. Continue doing those. If you're a student, if you're a professional in the game right now, you can still continue to build these skills and to become more aware of your skills and enhance them, increase them. Get out there, do the work. You're already doing it, just get a little bit more tools to get it going. So I hope it was helpful to talk about OARS and a little bit of motivational interviewing and communication. We're going to dive a lot deeper into verbal, nonverbal cues, ways to use communication to actually de-escalate imminent situation, conflict resolution, many different tools down the road. But this is just a sample. Give OARS a try and let me know in the comments if you use it, if this is helpful, and what you have done to always go back and review these skills, because this is a skill set. If you don't use OARS, it's very difficult to use them on a daily basis without practicing them and keep it sharp with them. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about ALERT. So this is an acronym that I came up with about 3 years ago now, that I found it to be very impactful when assessing someone for safety, suicidality, and completing a crisis assessment. So we'll kind of break this down together to talk about exactly what ALERT means and how it could be helpful for you. So ALERT is very easy to remember. I'm a visual learner, and I think it's really important to know what kind of learner you are. You can Google search learning, how do I learn? And there's actually different free, quick test type of click here, answering these questions to determine what kind of learner you want. Some are visual, some are audio, kinetic, some do both. There's a lot of different learners out there. I'm a very visual, so a lot of the techniques and tools you're going to see are visual for that reason, because I remember them. I use it like a Rolodex so I can take it out. So this ALERT stands for the following. So the first thing we want to do is assess for risk of harm to self and others. We want to ask those questions about suicide. Are you having thoughts of suicide today? Do you have any intent? Are there any plans? Are there any means, right? Do you have anything that you could use? You want to assess for the danger. You're also assessing, do you want to hurt or kill anyone else? Those are the top ones we got to do there. Next is learning about intent and means. So you're diving a little bit more into it. So you've asked the general questions. You have an understanding that yes, there could be intent and means. What are they? What are your intents to hurt or kill yourself today? What means, right? Are there guns? Are there knives, pills, a bridge, ropes, whatever it is? We got to rule it out. Remember, we talked about asking them about past thoughts of suicide and past attempts. Yes, I had an attempt 2 years ago. I overdosed on a ton of pills. Okay, do you have access to those pills now? Yes, I do. Or, yeah, I do, but I'm taking those prescribed. It's not a problem. Great, check that off. You're good to go there. We want to learn about those intent. We want to learn about that means. Very, very important. Next, we want to evaluate the need for additional services. Do we think it's getting to the point of needing 911? Do we think if we're in a hospital setting or a nonprofit type setting, do we need to use the code, right? Do we need to get more support to you? Do we need staff? Do we need to put them into a room? Do we need to get 911 out to the situation, whatever it may be? And also remembering when you're evaluating the need for additional services, you're also evaluating the need of safety for you. Do you think it's getting to a point where you need backup? And that's what's crucial. Think of backup, backup, backup. At the end of the day, you need to go home. Yes, we're worried about our client. Yes, we're worried about possibly family members, community members around that client, but we're also worried about us and our team. We need to make sure we get home safe. And if we need to have additional support just to show kind of, hey, we got some force here if things go down, that's okay too. Next is remembering to stay calm and focused. So we talked about this a little bit, but so impactful to do this. The louder someone gets, the calmer you get. If I'm talking to someone and they say, I got a gun in my head, I'm about to kill myself, I'm not gonna be like, what? What gun? Put that gun down. That's not gonna help the situation. Okay, I hear you got a gun to your head. Sounds like things are really stressful right now. And they almost go, what? They may be looking for a reaction, they may not be. But it's a way for them to go, okay, I'm talking to someone that's super calm. It's actually really awesome to do. Something I did to get that experience in calmness is going to YouTube and typing in 911 dispatch. There's also some great shows that actually have 911 calls. Listen to dispatchers. Dispatchers are trained like crisis clinicians, right? They never know what's going to come in. And it could be absolutely anything. It could be my cat's in a tree, to my neighbors hitting my fence, to someone's robbing me, there's a fire, my husband's down, not breathing. So they never know what they're going to get. And they are phenomenal at keeping cool, calm, collected. They're very calm. They figure out what they need to figure out to find out where you are, what's going on, what the issue is, and then they figure out a solution to it. So staying calm and staying focused. You have time here. If you're talking to someone or working with someone face to face or over the phone or over different platforms like we are now, you have the time to focus, make sure you're asking your questions, asking them appropriately, and figuring out what's going on, assessing the situation. And you need to remember that. So staying calm and staying focused. Last is taking time to develop a crisis plan. So this is crisis rebound plan. I have developed a crisis rebound plan that I'm going to share in the next few weeks. That is just a phenomenal way to create a safety plan and overall crisis plan with someone. There's crisis plans out there. Probably every organization has one. I don't necessarily like the ones that are out there because it's very focused on you're in immediate crisis. This is what's going on. This is who you can call. There's another way to do it. There's another way to create a crisis plan that is for the person, that talks about different aspects of who they are. So we'll share that. But it's important to develop a crisis plan with someone. You're doing all this great work. You've assessed them, learned about if there's any harm to self or others, suicidality. Intent means services, extra support if needed, go to the hospital, you're staying calm, you're staying focused, do all this work, goodbye. But we didn't do a crisis plan. Take time to make sure when you leave or you walk out of wherever you're walking out of, that person has something in writing, tangible. Something I always hear, and I've heard my entire career, no matter where I've worked. Oh yeah, I have a crisis plan. I don't know what it is, because every 6 months to a year, the clinician has to go in and update the treatment, right? They have to go in, mandate it, update what the status is, the diagnosis, the treatment plan. You might sit there and do that with the client. You're typing away, blah, 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 blah. Client never gets a copy of their treatment plan. They never get a copy of their crisis plan. In a hospital, you kind of talk about it. In the discharge paperwork, you should probably put it in. Hey, this is the crisis plan we talked about. And a crisis plan could be a lot of things, right? Ways that you're going to cope, people you could reach out to, animals in their life that are important to them, crisis lines that they can call. watching TV, exercising, taking their medications as prescribed, checking in with their providers, being willing to call the list of resources that you provided them to get more help and support. So it could be so many different things. That's okay. The important thing is that you do it and they get a copy of it. But what's also more important is that there's buy-in from them. If you just sit there and develop this amazing crisis plan and hand it to them, they're not going to do it. If they even read it, you're lucky. Building a crisis plan with a person is what we need to do. And a lot of us don't do it. Okay. Taking the time to have buy-in for that plan, to have the client actually tell you meaningful things they can do, steps they can take, ways they could overcome if they get back into the crisis state that brought them to you originally. If you're in kind of a crisis center, emergency department, there's going to be kind of a one-shot deal to do that. If you're working with someone more ongoing, revisiting that plan, even monthly, is important, right? Having them go, okay, yeah, we've been going over that safety plan and I get it, but I'm not using a lot of it. Okay, well, let's look at it together. What's working, what's not? Well, this is working, number 3 is really working, but I'm not using this other stuff. Okay, understandable. Let's take that off the table. Let's put in stuff that might actually work for you. So what do you think? What could work? What could be better for you? Building that plan together is awesome. So something I do is I go, okay, and again, we're going back to summarizing and reflective listening. So what I heard you say during our conversation is that your dog is really important to you. You just got back on new meds and you're trying to take those meds every day. And you're checking in with your good friend every 3 days. You said that's really important and part of your safety plan. But what else is going to be important to you? Or what else can you think could help you stay safe or help you stay more connected the next few days? So you're building that plan. You've had them go, okay, yeah, you know what? I am doing A, B, and C. He's asking me for D. Let me think about it a little bit. You may ask, hey, what's a good safety plan? What are some things you're doing to stay safe every day? And I do get a lot, I don't know. Okay, well, let's talk about it a little bit. What matters to you? What are some things you do when your eyes open? What are some things you do every day for your wellness, your health? Well, I get up and I make sure I have some coffee and eat some food. Awesome. So it sounds like you're working hard to make sure that you're staying healthy. Yeah, yeah, I am doing that. Okay. So you're staying healthy. Does that include exercise? Does that include going to appointments, seeing doctors? Oh, yeah. You know what? I go for a walk every day. I meditate for 30 minutes. Bam. You're opening up that conversation by using those OARS to get what you need. And what you need is not checking off something on your list. So if you get Q8 or you get monitored by your supervisor, you're doing good. No, you're building it for them so they can use it. And that's what's important. So again, alert, assess for risk and harm of self and others, learn about intent and means, evaluate the need for additional services, remember to stay calm and stay focused, and ultimately remember taking time to develop that crisis plan, because that is what could be a valuable tool someone could pull out and use when they need to. And that's the goal of crisis work, to help someone in the moment and then make sure that they're going to do as best as they can once you're no longer there. I think sometimes first responders, clinicians, nurses, doctors, all of us in the healthcare field, we get into this like Superman, Superwoman mentality of without us, they can't survive. No, they're going to survive. They're going to have good and bad days, right? They're going to have their baseline like we talked about. They're going to ebb and flow. They're going to have good and bad days because we do, right? We're human beings. I have good and bad days. Sometimes I wake up depressed. Sometimes I wake up a little anxious about things. Other times I'm waking up, bam, I'm good to go when I get out there. It's about what kind of tools and what our mindset truly is to help us get to where we need to go. I always like to tell people when I'm training and working with clients is that we work out. We work out to build our muscle, right? Our muscles, what do? After you work out, you rest. It builds that muscle memory. So next time you go to the gym, you can lift the same amount or even lift a little bit more. Same thing for crisis. Same thing for mental health wellness. We need to build tools and have muscle memory in our brain to remember these tools and to implement them when we need to. Something that could be really helpful is just having an open discussion about someone's, mindset. What's the hunger inside you? Yes, you're going through all this stuff. We're not minimizing it. But what drives you forward? What keeps you going? What has kept you going? What's the warrior inside of you? And that's an awesome thing to talk about. So that's the warrior inside you, okay? And what that means is what inside you fires you up, gets you going, keeps you motivated, and keeps you pushing forward to not stop. It doesn't mean we're not going to work with people that get to the point of, I can't do this anymore. But a lot of people can pick out what the warrior is. And then once they actually say what the warrior is to them, have them point to where it is. A lot of people point to the heart, people point to the head. What makes you a warrior? What keeps you fighting? And where is that inside you? If they say their heart, their mind, we talk about that. Tell me more about that. What inside your heart sparks it and gets you going? What gets that hunger in you? Because I hear that hunger. I hear what you're going through. And it's not right, or it's difficult, or it's super frustrating and overwhelming. But you've been pushing forward and going forward. So let's do this together. Let's figure it out. Let's cut through that red tape. Let's make some movement to help you and to be impactful for you. So I really appreciate you listening to this week's video. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button so you're notified about when new videos come out. Videos are going to come out every week. That's my goal. Sometimes I get a little busy in life, maybe a little bit longer than a week, but I'm trying my best. Trying to line up some interviews coming up as well. I'm really excited. I'll kind of keep them close to the chest right now, but I think if they work out, they're going to be really awesome. So I wish you all the best. Keep going out there. Keep fighting for people. Do the amazing work that you're doing. Keep building your skills. And please, please, please find the warrior inside you. I wish you all the best. You take care.